We begin this morning with a Fox News alert. 2 Israeli diplomats killed in Washington, D.C. after a shooter opens fire outside the Capitol Jewish Museum. A suspect is in custody as we learn about the possible motive behind this horrific act.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Yet all we hear about is white supremacy and right-wing violence. Welcome to another installment of Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms, your NRA certification on multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And if you like channel-like content and what I do here, you can support me with the link. Everything appreciated. And once again, online store is open. Please take advantage. CGB20 will get you 20% off on cool gear. CGB20, 20% off, free shipping, Connecticut residents. You have to pay the sales tax. I have no say in the matter. But let's talk about this. And then I saw this today, and then this happened last night, May 21st. And it highlights a problem of violence in this country, especially political violence. Because anytime you speak about political violence, the left, Democrats, what have you, are quick to talk about January 6th. Yet at the same time, they conveniently step over the BLM riots, Antifa, pro-Palestine, Roe v. Wade. I can go on and on of leftist, politically inspired violence. But they just tell you, oh, it's always the same angle. I don't promote violence, and I'm against violence, but this is just protesting. And it's like, no, this is violence. Stop. And then they go to butt Trump. But this story right here is just a highlight of the fact that we have a problem of politically inspired violence by the left. There were 2 Israeli diplomats in Washington, D.C. who were gunned down by a man who took the time to go all the way from Chicago to Washington, D.C. with a firearm to then shoot and kill these 2 people. And why did he do it? Because of what is happening in Gaza. He killed 2 people in America because of what is happening in another country thousands of miles away. Now, you can have an opinion about what is happening out there. That's what it's all about. Free speech. You can have a position and an opinion, but you do not have the right to take someone's life over that position, because that's exactly what he did, and you're going to find that out very clearly as I'm going to give you some information right here.
And we start this hour with more details about that deadly shooting outside of a museum in Washington, D.C. The victims, a young Jewish couple who had worked at the Israeli embassy. The gunman was heard shouting, "Free Palestine," afterwards as he was taken into custody. Police telling us the killing sending shockwaves around the world this morning. Rebecca Castor has the very latest from D.C.
The shooting is being investigated as a terrorist act, and it's all hands on deck from local police to the FBI. A gunman opening fire outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. Wednesday night, killing 2 Israeli embassy staffers. Israeli officials identified the victims as Yaron Lashinsky and Saren Milgram. According to family, they were soon to be engaged.
A guy came up and looked like a gun. I couldn't tell what it was.
Police say the 31-year-old suspect was seen pacing outside before the shooting. Then just after 9 p.m., he approached a group of 4 people leaving an event at the museum and opened fire before walking inside.
He wasn't calm. He looked very scared, but I thought it was because he had just witnessed a murder.
So people were bringing him water, checking in on him, showing value. And we didn't know that he was a killer at this time.
The suspect was later taken into custody and began chanting,
Free Palestine!
Investigators believe the gunman acted alone and say there is not an ongoing threat to the community. Attorney General Pam Bondi promising a full investigation.
No parents should have to be called and told that their children were violently murdered, leaving a religious event that should never happen in this world and not in our country.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is instructing Israeli missions around the world to increase security. And
Heard that and you saw that. Apparently this couple that he gunned down coming out of this museum, longtime partners and friends, and they were about to get engaged. They were going to go to Jerusalem to do it. And they got gunned down by this man because he just did not like what was happening in Gaza. Once again, you kill two people because of a situation in another country. Wow. I want to go ahead and point out some things here, so let me jump in. But 2 Israeli diplomats shot, killed during an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. Now I'm going to come right to here. Pro-Palestinian man is in custody after allegedly, he said he did it, killing 2 Israeli embassy staff members who were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday night, authorities confirmed. But the 30-year-old man, identified as Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, is believed to have committed the act alone and is in custody, Metropolitan Police Department Chief Pamela Smith said, adding that his gun was also recovered. FBI agents are now looking through writings they believe were authored by Rodriguez. In Chicago, state, local, and federal agencies are searching his apartment. Thursday, police sources told Fox News. I'm going to come down to here. When authorities arrived at the scene, the man and woman were found unconscious but not breathing. Despite life-saving efforts from first responders, Smith said both were pronounced dead. Smith said in the preliminary investigation showed Rodriguez was allegedly observing, pacing back and forth outside the museum before he approached a group of 4 people exiting the building, including the 2 victims, and began shooting. Then he went back into the museum and was detained by event staff, where he started to shout, "Free, free Palestine," basically until he was arrested. And there's a picture. I'm going to put it up. There he is right here, screaming, "Free, free Palestine." Wow. Wow. Apparently 2 other diplomats were shot at close range. No talk of any injuries there, but and come down once again. I'm going to jump right down to here. The mayor, Muriel Bowser, said that this is horrific and an act of terrorism. And I'm wondering, are they going to charge him with terrorism? Because this is politically inspired domestic terrorism, and he needs to be charged federally with that crime. This man should never see the light of day again. If they give him the death penalty, they should. He planned it. He drove from Chicago to Washington, D.C. with a gun to kill someone, and he killed 2 people. It's premeditated. There's no doubt about it. He admits he did it. He even tells you why he did it, because of what's happening in another country. And let me go ahead and come out of that. This is what I'm talking about. There is a blatant hypocrisy to this whole thing. The left is quick to talk about January 6th, but they keep ignoring agents of chaos that are operating under their banner.
The young man who murdered 2 Israeli embassy staffers, 30-year-old Yaron Lishinsky and 26-year-old Sarah Milgram, is a perfect example of the problem. He shouts, "Free Palestine," not because he is from there or understands the place, but because as a young brown man, he identifies with the oppression and he has been conditioned to do that. We know the shooter is a far-left activist, caught on camera shouting "Free Palestine," and as he was arrested, he kept chanting the slogan and said, "I did it for Gaza." So why the F are all these people on the left saying "if true"? And if that's who he is, and if he's not an IDF plant, and you don't want any of the blame for what just happened on you? He is described as what he is. He said what he said. Stop asking why people who understand what we're up against, like Douglas Murray, caution Joe Rogan against his comic buddies bashing Israel for sport and to develop a following. Prosecutors allege this guy fired nearly 24 bullets in this attack because he wanted to kill as many as he could. And we know what's feeding the fire, right? Don't pretend to not know what this is about. The man has been conditioned to identify with the oppression in Gaza as if he's one of them, and there are so many like him here, in our families, on our campuses. Did he know one of his victims wasn't a Jew? I love how people are using that as it somehow mitigates what this was about. You know he didn't know, right? He was there to kill Jews, obviously. But imagine if you're right, and he did know that one of them was not Jewish. So now they're targeting not just Jews, but those who stand with Jews? Now, if it's not true, and I doubt it is, that he knew, it is certainly what Islamists instruct on the extreme side, here on American soil. Did he know that the two people he murdered were leaving an event that was about coordinating more aid to Gaza? Would it even matter when he's constantly told that Israel is starving as part of a genocide? And many feeding his broken brain are in America in positions of influence and power. And even though same people are now saying they're disgusted by this, even though it's the latest manifestation of their efforts. And they're saying they're against anti-Semitism, like the Squad and its putative leader, AOC. Absolutely nothing justifies the murder of innocents. Anti-Semitism is a threat to all we hold dear as a society. It must be confronted and rooted out everywhere. Did I miss the word Jews in there in terms of who was killed? Odd omission. Odd omissions. They're not just innocents. He just didn't go into a school and fire away. He was looking for Jews. You know, the people you say are conducting a genocide. Those people. Now, of course, AOC doesn't just say what I just read, right? Nor do her colleagues, right? And it's all those other signals and suggestions that foment what we saw here and on our campuses.
Congresswoman Omar, can I get your reaction to the shooting that happened in D.C. last night?
I'm going to go for now.
Democrats, my brothers and sisters, I understand why you're worried about Trump. I understand why you call him an ultimate evil, but I don't agree. And if you want the ultimate evil, look at the Islamists, the extreme ones in America, not just Muslims. And mind your dogs who are doing their bidding. What am I talking about? Look online to the reaction. Americans calling a terrorist a hero again, saying he, like the healthcare CEO murderer, was justified in violence. It's the same thing I've heard in Iraq and Afghanistan, but now echoing from Indiana.
They'll tell you, oh, we don't promote violence, we're against violence, but you're inspiring it with rhetoric and words. And it's not just this one event. There have just been countless events of political violence inspired by leftist agitators. A Supreme Court justice was targeted because of Roe v. Wade. I can go on and on. What we've seen over the last good 6 years of violence, straight up violence. And now two people lose their lives. Why? Because of an event in another country. Like, damn, really? You don't have the right to take somebody's life because you got a beef with something that's happening elsewhere. You don't have the right to take somebody's life unless they're actually trying to take yours. I saw this story and it's going to be ignored. It's going to be buried. Why is it going to be buried? Because a Democrat, a leftist, a progressive is the person who pulled it off. Because just imagine if this had been a white supremacist who gunned down a bunch of people at a supermarket. We'd be talking about it forever, continually, and we still talk about that event. You know what I'm talking about. We still talk about that event. Happened in Virginia. We're still talking about that event. This is going to be buried. It's going to disappear. The only other time you're going to hear anything about this story is when this guy goes to trial and its outcome. Just that simple. But this man should be up on federal domestic terrorism charges. Pam Bondi needs to be in the middle of this one. Period. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I'm going to see you on the next one. Peace.